A very, very lovely and interesting song there out there. We thank God for the gift of life that He has given us this morning. Zipporah, you know, it's always important that we give God thanks for this gift of life that He has given us. You know, a lot of people have not woken up this morning. A lot of people are in comas, others are in hospitals. But anyway, we are here this morning, and with our viewers out there, please always remember to thank God for this wonderful gift of life that He has given us. Anyway, right about now, we'll just go direct into our healthy corner, and we'll be looking at menstrual cycle disorder.
Good morning to you, listeners. I'm Dr. Mutinta Muyuni, member of the Medical Women's Association, and I'm here to talk to you today a little more about the menstrual cycle. Today, we are going to discuss the menstrual cycle disorders. Now, yesterday, we talked about where this all starts, the beginning of what we call our womanhood or our mark of womanhood, the menstrual cycle. We have a monthly menstrual period. Now that can come. The bleeding can be anything between three days to about 7 days, and it comes every, say, 21 to 28 days ideally. Now I want it to be clear that each woman must understand their own cycle. Some women or girls may have a 21-day cycle, meaning from the start of the last bleeding until the next bleeding, there's a space of 21 days in between. The first day of the bleeding, we call it day 1. The middle of the cycle is where we expect ovulation to occur. Now I'll give you a tip. There are a lot of apps on our phones these days that help us to count and keep track of our menstrual cycles. And this can help us anticipate. For example, if I know I'm traveling the week I'm having my period, I'll know to prepare a bit extra, or I'll know what I'm expecting. Maybe I might need some painkillers for my period pains, things like that. So it's always good for us girls not to just say, oh, I can't remember when my last period was. Let's be aware, let's be smart, let's predict our expected period. I'll tell you why a little bit later. So, when we have our periods, we may differ. So don't feel bad if your period comes every 21 days. Rather, understand yourself and your own cycle. I emphasizing this because we always compare ourselves to other people. Try and compare maybe even to the women in your particular family, or your mother, your sisters. See how it went for them. But by far, embrace your own cycle as your own. Manage yourself, because we are all unique. Each of us has a unique cycle. There are disorders associated with the variations in the menstrual cycle. One is amenorrhea. Amenorrhea is absence of the menstrual cycle. It may be primary, meaning by age 16, 18, I've not had a menstrual cycle at all. In this case, we'd encourage you to seek medical care and see, why is this not happening? Is it that there is something different in my reproductive system, or my hormones are just delayed in maturing up? My reproductive system, my ovulation is delayed. What could be the problem? Your doctor or healthcare provider will be able to assist you, do some tests and find out. Like I said, don't worry about being different. Let's embrace ourselves. Let's not panic. There's good news for everybody. As long as you accept how you are as an individual, you are good enough for me, you are good enough for everyone else. The second disorder I'll bring your attention to is polymenorrhea. When you have bleeding starting and stopping and resuming again within the same month. We call that polymenorrhea or frequent menses. This can be a bit upsetting because sometimes during our periods, the fact that we have to change pads, the fact that we become a bit moody, a bit bloated, sore, slow down in everything that we're doing, having a period twice can be a bit much. And so you want to take care of yourself and see, do I just have a short biological cycle, or this is caused by a medical condition? All these answers can be told to you from a healthcare provider. The challenge with polymenorrhea or frequent periods is sometimes you become anemic, or your blood level or hemoglobin becomes low. You may feel a bit dizzy and a bit uneasy as you are going about your work. Sometimes you even black out. Don't let yourself get to that stage. Know your cycle and know how to manage yourself. I think the most common disorder of the menstrual cycle is menorrhagia, what we call heavy menses or heavy bleeding. Now this one can be due to hormone levels. It can also be due to anatomic conditions or physical conditions of the uterus. It may be larger because of fibroids, or it may be larger because of the lining is thicker because of conditions like polyps or small growths within the lining, or increased thickness due to the influence of hormones like estrogen. Now, like polymenorrhea or frequent periods, menorrhagia typically will lower your HB or your hemoglobin. It will lower your blood level and result in anemia if you don't manage yourself. Now, because we don't talk about periods, we might not know that this is actually a problem. So I want you to listen carefully. If you fall in any of these categories and you find that your quality of life is suffering because of your menstruation, visit a health center, discuss with us, open up, don't be shy. A lot of women go through this, but the trick is knowing how to manage yourself. I'm Dr. Mutinta Muyuni, gynecologist from Medical Women Association, talking to you today about menstrual disorders. We'll talk a bit more about that tomorrow.
that was Dr. Muyuni. They are just taking us into some disorders on the menstrual cycle. Anyway, just a reminder to our viewers that you can actually come forward and actually sponsor the Health Corner. And moving on, we are having the money market just to let you know how the kwacha is faring against some major international currencies. Let's just take a look at the money market for today. Experts predict that by December of 2022, we're going to have the US dollar at 10, maybe $1 US going at 10 kwacha, but we look forward to seeing that, given that the kwacha keeps fluctuating.
Fluctuating, yeah, it's very possible to see such kind of improvement as we go further. You know, 5 months, it's a lot of time. So there's room for improvement, yeah, exactly.
Yes, and just a reminder to our viewers that you can actually come forward and sponsor the money market. And so just now we're going to move forward into zooming the headlines. And we're going to take a look at one of yesterday's stories from Chawama, where a woman was allegedly murdered by her husband. And Miriam, you've noticed even the statistics from the Zambia police last week show that the number of GBV cases have increased. And those statistics actually indicate that, is it 79% overall of all victims are women in these GBV cases?
A very, very, very sad situation, Zipporah, that we have continued to face as a country. You know, we have always seen various stakeholders come on board, you know, talk about the fight against gender-based violence, but, you know, these things continue increasing each and every day. I would suggest that we should, you know, put up more centers, mental health centers, so that people, when they're depressed, you know, they're going through certain issues, you know, they can seek help and counseling, especially in the rural parts of the country, and also in these shanty compounds. Exactly. But anyway, moving forward, let's look at a story of a 30-year-old woman of Lusaka's Chawama compound who was allegedly murdered by her husband, leaving behind 3 children, among them an 8-month-old baby. Very, very sad. You know, this child is still breastfeeding. Yeah. Anyway, let's get to see what that story is all about.
Barely 2 days after Zambia woke up to a shock of a son allegedly murdering his own biological parents in cold blood, 3 children of Lusaka's Chawama compound have also been robbed of their mother's love after Charity Mumba is alleged to have, in the early hours of Monday, 18th August 2022, beaten to death by her husband, who she has fathered a child with. According to the neighbors, the couple was in a habit of fighting whenever they had a marital dispute. A check by Camnet News at the house of the victim found neighbors still in shock of what had transpired, while police had locked the door to the house pending further investigations. And a neighbor spoken to has narrated to this reporter what transpired in the early hours of Monday.
Most of the time, so my idona mfire febare roni chininda kwadi kumazirwana. So after na fuma na isaba kunokinyina but kudoko ali open. Ekweta baneba sentura mwino rugudi. So time tulebwera kutetwa msangire nishina alala padia. So ro twamwimishe pale okusamu kumuleta. Sumo but nishi areshu pana no mweyo. So time twachira mtwala kujya nishishitana ipakati
atenzo enda ola mumenya so azaenda mwamuna uko kwa nama enda kwa noko kuma girlfriend kwake aenda uko akabwerera ese titiwa nkale bino bwino kuti abwera kuli mkazi wake aya mafuti kumumenya namba kudala kumuchaya mwamuna na kumumpaya ndiye wanampaya kamba kuti ataba sembe sindiye wanampaya sembe zanka zikika kuti aone mzake kuti vyenda bwaji vakusogora ngatana tabira tabachani.
For this 8-month-old baby, a journey to breastfeeding has come to an end as a mother is gone. The neighbors have since called on the Social Welfare Department to come to the rescue of the 3 children which the deceased has left behind, as they have no relative to adopt them.
Deceased
She has left 3 children, and the third one, she's got 8 months. So we are appealing if the social welfare can come to the head so that they can help these children, because the deceased, she has no one who can take over from these children. So we are appealing. She was more like a fighter. She was fighting for her children. It's so sad that death has taken her so easily.
Kumusisa babana batatu pano pazikola pansi. Ero mwana munono wa 8 months we anachoka kwa majemazo. Sasa wana mosungira bana. Please tipempa ko ba social welfare, please titandize nkoni che kubana che ndiye kwa mutione ko tapapata tipansi pamendo yani kubekwa nitizapeleka bana.
This 27-year-old is the sister to the deceased, who while in tears told this reporter that the deceased was her only surviving family member, as both parents are late. Meanwhile, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga, when contacted for a comment, told this reporter that the man alleged to have beaten his wife to death is currently on the run, but that police have instituted a manhunt for the accused.
Police have launched a manhunt for Laston Kumalo, age 45, who is on the run after murdering his wife, Charity Mumba, age 30 years, both of Chawama compound. Brief facts are that the two have been having marital disputes, which made the deceased to sue for divorce at Chawama local court, accusing the husband of having a girlfriend. Police rushed to the scene of crime and found the deceased beaten, and injuries were visibly seen, also bleeding from the nose.
According to the 2022 gender-based violence second quarter statistics, a total of 5,977 females were victims of GBV, with 10 women and 2 girls being victims of murder. What then does the country need to do to win the fight against gender-based violence? Prudence Chota, reporting for County News.
A very, very sad story there done by one of our colleague, Prudence Chota. That is what transpired in Chawama compound yesterday, where a woman was allegedly murdered by her husband, leaving behind 3 children, among them an 8-year-old, 8-month-old baby. Very, very sad, Zipporah. Like we said before we went on playing that story, we said, you know, there's need to put up mental health facilities so that you can help people understand, you know, and also the issue of anger management. A lot of people fail to control themselves. Why should you resort in killing each other, going to an extent of killing each other, you know?
And that's one concern, because many stakeholders have been saying that this is actually due to alcohol abuse among most people. So you find that this alcohol abuse causes many disorders where you have a mental breakdown, you take it out on someone else, and all those things. So, and
that's why we saw Dr. Sampa, you know, coming on board and, you know, having that ban campaign movement, and now he's walking to Chipata. Anyway, we'll see how it will go by the end of the time.
And speaking of Chipata, we have another story of a man from Chipata, in Eastern Province, who actually traveled to Lusaka earlier in 2022 in search for a better life. You know how everyone thinks that it's happening here in Lusaka. So the man, identified as Alex Banda, actually traveled from Chipata to Lusaka earlier in 2022, but then got a job temporarily as a security guard, but that did not last. And eventually the man ended up living just outside the wall fence of Werere Primary School. And so according to people that know him, they say he left behind a wife and 2 female children in Chipata, and so he was in search of employment. But then basically that's anyway, let's just take a look at that story and be back.
Exactly.
Because it's alleged that
but before we go on playing that story, Zipporah, let us inform our viewers that we have now opened our phone lines. Please, if you want to call us, please do call us and give us your contribution, and we'll catch you on the other side as we get to play that story, and then just get more details of what the story is all about.
The World Bank estimates that poverty levels in Zambia by the end of 2021 plunged from the initial 54% to 60.3% of the population due to coronavirus impacts. This means that the number of people living in abject poverty has also increased, leaving them in utter destitution. This is the body of a man identified as Alex Banda from Lusaka's Garden compound, whose exact age is not known. As community members say all they knew about him
is that he traveled to Lusaka from Chipata earlier in 2022 in search of employment, leaving behind a wife and 2 children, but was not fortunate enough to find sustainable employment. One of the community members, Kenan Mumba, explains that this left Mr. Banda with no option but to seek refuge along the wall fence of Ngwerere Primary School within the community, where he has been starving and eventually became sick before his sudden death Monday morning.
Kuchikala kuchipata nakwera kuno kuyamba ntchito ya security guard. Ananouza tena mtumira phone brother wake nili apa ali ku 6 miles but number yake nzebe mutu kali tunapata isako timtumi. Then ni kumuona kuti atenzopezeka pano every day nzobona mvintemba after mvintemba mwana akamtosa matia niyo pamunonga feremo. So anapambo speza pano seri kwa Ngwerere kuno after manje adwara manje apambo oneka serious manje so inapana mbomfunze sisa manje so yo muntu wanetinga tumire ruru wakanga buro kutenga kapego nyumba kwake ndani inananuza ta muntu rero ngatumire kuliriwa ku 6 miles manje panyumba pake sinipaziba but namba naye barako manamba zabiri atatu so ine nabwana mvera manta.
Meanwhile, Ngwerere Ward 22 Councillor Adrian Banda says the case is saddening, urging community members to alert his office when they come across such situations.
Whenever you find anything, please, our offices are open. You can report through the BDC office, report the councillor's office, anything happening within our ward. Otherwise, we want this ward to be peaceful. We don't want any occurrence of some dead bodies within our ward.
In a separate interview, Ngwerere Ward 22 Ward Development Committee Chairperson Kalimukwa has called on family members to come on board and identify the body, which has been taken to the University Teaching Hospital UTH mortuary.
We received the report that someone who has died along Ngwerere school office. We rushed there and truly found that someone was died. We engaged the police, Garden Police Post, and the Masdar Police Station so that they can come and collect the body so that it can be posted in the UTH mortuary. We are appealing to Garden residents that if they are missing the person, they should quickly rush to UTH mortuary and identify the body.
The living conditions of many citizens paint a gloomy picture, requiring corrective measures which will lift citizens out of poverty. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Very, very interesting story there. And quite sad anyway, Zipporah, I must mention, you know, you traveled all the way from Chipata and then you in search of a job, but anyway, your life is cut short.
He failed to find anything, and I'm sure he was also mentally stressed, thinking of his wife and
the children
back at home. And so really, he just had a breakdown there. And eventually died yesterday. And so that's what the councillor was saying. When you spot such people, make sure you bring them to the necessary offices, like the councillor's office, and all that. But then you find that those things don't happen, and someone dies, that's when they alert the councillor. But why does that happen?
The spirit of Ubuntu. We need to have the spirit of Ubuntu. Exactly. No, sir. The problem there, it's not my business. So
someone does, everyone comes there trying to be sympathetic and all that.
We were ever like that, but anyway.
Yeah, but that just shows a clear picture of the poverty levels that we have in Zambia, and that's now for the government of the day to actually try to work on and ensure that everyone at least has. It's like 3 decent meals a day.
Yeah, exactly. And as we move forward, we hope that all the promises that they made to the people of Zambia prior to the 2021 general elections are put in fulfillment. Anyway, we have seen some of the promises being done, but anyway, we hope to see more and more being done for the citizens of this Zambia, just to ensure that we live in a better Zambia as a country. We hope to see much better, you know, a better living condition, the reduce of high cost of living. Right about now, people are complaining about, you know, the high cost of living, despite saying, although the dollar has, the kwacha is okay, the what, but, you know, the high cost of living is very high. People do not even have means to have, you know, 3 meals a day. It's quite sad, especially when you go in these communities in Lusaka and other parts of the country. But anyway, as we move forward, we hope that more and more people will have means and ways on how they can survive, and then just remove this way of mentality of depression amongst people. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And just now, Miriam, we move into our next segment. We are going to be talking about the crisis surrounding Constituency Development Fund. And we're going to be joined by the Chilanga Ward Development Committee Chairperson, Mr. Lucky Bene. So, for example, Miriam, in Chilanga, we have some constituencies like Chilanga which have got 12 wards. But if you look at other constituencies, they have only like 6 wards. So for people in Chilanga, the WDC chairperson says there is a crisis in the constituency because some cooperatives are getting as little as 10,000 kwacha. And if you imagine that, maybe like 10 people in the cooperative. So according to him, he feels that if not maybe properly curtailed, the CDF will not really benefit anyone. Miriam, because to give you 1,000 kwacha to take, are you going to start a business, a sustainable business to actually help? If you, for example, if you are not employed, are you actually going to be sustained using 1,000 kwacha?
You know, those who have a business mind will tell you they can even start your business with as little as 500 kwacha. But anyway, it depends with what type of a business that you want to do.
Because if to do a sustainable business, you need bigger capital. But then again, on the other hand, Miriam, we'll be looking at what other alternatives do people have apart from CDF. We have, for example, the Ministry of Small Medium Enterprises. People are taking advantage.
You know, people haven't really paid much attention to the other funds. You know, the whole concentration has only been on the CDF, but actually people taking advantage of this. Do they know the necessary information to go about with the same? So yeah.
Anyway, let's just take a look actually at the story which we did on Sunday with the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development concerning CDF, as we get joined by the Chilanga WDC chairperson. Stay tuned.
As one way of quickly pushing the country to its 2030 goal of attaining the status of a prosperous middle-income country, the United Party for National Development (UPND) increased the Constituency Development Fund (CDF) from 1.6 million to 25.7 million kwacha, with an aim of taking development to the grassroots. Many citizens expected the constituencies to be a beehive of activity following this increase, but this has not been the case in many communities, as implementation of these projects has been slow. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development says there is need for civic leaders to ensure that projects are planned for in good time before funds are released to ensure the quick implementation. Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development Permanent Secretary in charge of administration Mamboha Maundu was speaking to Camnet News.
The critical thing is you plan for a whole year. When you are done with planning for 2022, you need to plan for 2023, 2024, 2025, so that when we have planned for a longer period of time, we will just be actualizing by way of spending money. Yes, of course, you can ask a question, say, but what will be the budget in 2023? That for me is immaterial. But if you prioritize to say, this is the area we live in, this is our plan. You know, there's what we call local area plans. There's also what we call integrated development plans. There could also be ward development plans. If you plan to say, this is the activity that we need to see in our wards, then it becomes easier. Once the resources are made available, you just be picking out projects to say, in our ward, we were saying one of the priorities is water at 10 particular points. Do we have sufficient money? If the answer is yes, you go ahead and engage into those projects. So planning will be very critical as we go forward as a country.
Mr. Hamaundu has also reviewed that the ministry has noted an overwhelming response in the application for cooperatives, unlike it was in the past, owing to increased sensitization by civic leaders.
When it all started, there were concerns from many to say there were issues, there were bottlenecks and so on and so forth, but I think it was all premised on aspects around understanding what CDF is about, how you can access CDF. But I think that for now, the level of information that is out there in the public is sufficient for people to make decisions. It's sufficient for people to know how to access the fund. And I think a number of them have been making applications through their zonal leaders, feeding into the wards, into the constituencies. And we've actually seen an improvement as a ministry in the number of projects which are being submitted for approval.
He has also expressed happiness that most of the cooperatives are centered around agriculture, stating that this will increase food security in the country. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Welcome back. That was a story from the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development Permanent Secretary, Mr. Mambo Hamaundu, just talking about the Constituency Development Fund and really how it should be utilized. And so on set, going into talking about the CDF, we have been joined by the Chilanga Ward Development Committee Chairperson, Mr. Lakiven, who's just going to help us discuss the topic of what other alternatives do we have if CDF fails, what should be done. Good morning, Mr. Bene, how are you?
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
It's good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much.
And I'm really glad that you actually traveled all the way from Chilanga just to be here.
Imagine.
The message that you want to carry across is a serious message.
Sure, I love my nation, Zambia.
Definitely. And so maybe just to get us started, really, what are the issues maybe surrounding CDF in your constituency?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to this very important show. There are a lot of issues regarding what development matters. Actually, just to give a preamble, but what development committees, we are an extended arm of the local government. Though not employed at the council, we are part of the council. So we take responsibility as to do with the issues of our community. We are the link between the community and the government. As there are a lot of challenges depending on the context and in the area that we are focusing on. The first challenge, you want me to focus on challenges?
You can.
Okay. First of all, it's the formation of how our development committees formed. I hope I have enough time. They are formed by the council as returning officer invites the people in the communities to come at the place where they registered as voters. Then they are grouped according to the area where they are coming from. And then elections are conducted. And the people choose their representative in that locality. And that's how you form the ward development committees. Then the ward development committees form up what is called an executive, where I'm the chairman. The ward development zonal leaders will elect the chairman. So that's how I was elected as a chairman. Now, just to call the people who have had this negative perception about governance, so it was not easy to form them up. After they have been formed, part of the challenges now would be because of the 5% administrative component in the community-based projects, which also has a disaster contingency component. I think that has not yet kicked in, I think, across the country. I don't think it's only in Chilanga. It has not yet kicked in for reasons really unknown. Probably we are still maybe trying to prioritize. Probably maybe the government is still prioritizing to buy equipment, for example, computers, printers, before they can actually come for our development members to start actually also getting that component. So you find that the ward development committee members actually for now we foot our own bills. We foot our own bills in the interest of our nation. Actually we will fulfill what our head of state says, that you don't come in. You know that saying that always the president say, you don't come in to take away, but you come in to put in. I think we are a good example as ward development committees in terms of always putting in to our government. You need to love your nation to do that, and you need to have capacity to do that.
In case you're just joining us, we're discussing bottlenecks surrounding the Constituency Development Fund. So you can call in on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen, or actually leave us a message on Facebook. And so, Mr. Bene, despite you saying we have to love our nation, at the end of the day, everyone wants to get something out of the work that they're doing. Now, given that CDF is actually aimed at bringing development to the grassroots, and if the ward development committees are not really motivated, how do you feel they will have that zeal and morale to actually push for the CDF to work at the grassroots? Or maybe what are your predictions come 2 or 3 years time from now concerning ward development committees?
First of all, I think the nation has been powered up by the brand, the HH brand. After the new president has been elected in, there's so much goodwill and trust, such that all the people, the sleeping giants, are woke, and they entered into the race. Like some of us, we are retired bankers, but we have come in to help the people. Because of that confidence, the confidence that club has kicked on, that has helped the Kwacha Program to strengthen, has also at local level, it has kicked in to help a lot of people to come in on board. But this issue of them putting in their money every day, I can't, the whole country, I'm not looking at Chilanga or Lusaka, the whole country, people are injecting their own resources to power up CDF in the name of the HH brand. It may, every brand does fade. So I hope after 3 years from now, we don't see a situation where we remain with only one powerful chairman. You know, in the previous government, there were powerful chairmen, and those were allocating land and doing all manner of illegal things because they had no checks and controls from anyone. So I pray that by the time we are kicking 3 years, I pray that we'll be able to finance, to help these world development committees across the country to sustain this good project of decentralization. It's a very wonderful issue. Yes.
Don't you think them pumping more of their resources into this would eventually, you know, make them or lead them to involve themselves in other corrupt means or ways?
What do you mean?
As in, if the ward development committees are pumping their resources or monies in ensuring that, you know, they see these projects moving and what, don't you think at the end of the day, if they're not gaining anything at the moment, they would eventually want to, you know, involve themselves in certain illegalities?
Yeah, when you deal with humanity, everything is possible. The only danger, yes, they can be forced into it. Yes, like I said, we had the powerful chairman in previous governments. Probably, I want to think hypothetically that they had committees. Then in the long run, maybe they are not motivated. And then it ended up that they remained these strong, powerful chairmen. And then they started doing illegalities. But for now, things are a bit changing in the country, in the communities. I think the culture of the way people do things have changed. There's a lot of order in terms of rule of law. The people are obeying the laws. People are following the laws of the country. But otherwise, it's not sustainable. It would be a whitewash for this government to say that you are going to sustain CDF allocation, or you are going to sustain decentralization on charity. You cannot. That will not work in the long run. In the long run, it's going to diminish. And we are going to end up with a failed project. But then we have an opportunity. The issue is that it's not that there is no money. In the Constitution, in the Local Government Act, there is already 5% there. The challenge is, why is that not kicking to the World Development Committee? When will it ever kick? I think that's the question. The money is already there. The goodwill is already there. But this goodwill is not being actualized.
Now we know that the CDF was recently increased to 25.7 million for each constituency. And then we have different people forming cooperatives. And I know my colleague, I think she did a story with you where you earlier mentioned that certain cooperatives in your area in Chilanga, for example, are not getting as much. They're getting little funds, and this will not help them sustain. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think there's a crisis. There's a crisis depending on the size of the constituency. Chilanga is a constituency, 12 wards, and the 12 wards has received, like in the whole country, they are pumped in about 470,000, say approximately for each ward. So if you divide 12 into 450, you actually find that each ward only has 40,000 kwacha for each ward. That's life.
Welcome back. I apologize for that short glitch, but we continue with the discussion with Mr. Lakivene. We are talking about the bottlenecks surrounding the implementation of constituency development fund. And so, Mr. Bene, earlier, just before you were talking about how some cooperatives may not really benefit. Can you just give us a clear picture of, for example, what is happening in your constituency in Chilanga?
Well, thank you so much. Yesterday it was boiling in Chilanga. We have a situation where the government has allocated, the share, the 20% share in terms of grants is 40%. The loans are 60%. But yesterday we are dealing with the grants, and these grants, the total allocation right now is about 450. So 12 wards in Chilanga, you divide into 450. Each ward ended up with 40,000 kwacha. Now 40,000 kwacha, the majority of all these clubs, say we had 40 applicants, successful applicants, whom we are even approved. They all applied for 40,000. If the people are applying for 3,000, 6,000, mind you, these are cooperatives. So because their budgets are at 40,000, so it means we can only give one club or one cooperative. In the midst of 40 successful, and probably have another 40 who are still going to try their luck next time. Now you can imagine. So we had to engage them to reduce the figure, to explain to them that this money is free money. The grant is a free money. You don't account for it. You don't pay back. So how can we? I know you have made budgets. That chicken run probably cost 35,000. And now how do we reduce that amount? So we settled that we reduce the amount to 5,000. So we have reduced the amount to 5,000 per cooperative. And how many are they per cooperative? Like how many people are they per cooperative? The minimum number for a cooperative and the club is about 10 people. 10 plus. A cooperative can even have 300 people. So minimum is 10 people. Minimum is 10 by formation. When you are forming it, the minimum requirement by law is 10.
So, for example, we have, let's say we have a minimum number of 10 people.
Yes.
Who are sharing 5,000 kwacha. Do you feel that is sustainable? Is that going to maybe bring any improvement in terms of the unemployment situation in Zambia?
No, I mean, logically, we should not whitewash. The fact remains that the 5,000 will be inadequate. But under the circumstances we find ourselves in, we have to allocate something. We have to provide leadership. And this leadership, we have to be logical. The logicality is actually we engage the people to choose what they wanted. We didn't decide for them. The people voted that we started from, say, 10,000 so that we only give for 4 clubs or 4 cooperatives. But people cried until the equilibrium went to about 5,000. So we settled that those who are willing not to keep on waiting, they can apply for 5,000. And I think that's how the fire was quenched.
Okay, and talking about leadership, have you people as leaders in your constituencies sat down to help these, in as much as you are giving them this money, this grant, to ensure that they put it to better use, and not at the end of the day we see a situation where they do not agree on certain things and then they get to misuse the funds that they're given?
Yeah, I think what we ought to know is that this is a new thing. It has just come in the country. There are always bottlenecks. There's always a process to growth. I cannot, yes, when we are booking these grants, when we are booking them, we told them, actually advised them not to apply for 40,000. We actually told them that for you to stand a better chance, you need to apply for amounts that are reasonable. I'll give an example that people are actually coming applying for 12,000, 8,000, 15,000, but later on, because of this hyper, so everyone just started changing the figures to get the maximum. I mean, who would not want to get the maximum amount? Who would not want? And actually, if you look at the value of money, where we are coming from, where the kwacha had lost value, so the 40,000 is just a figure. But in terms of what you are going to acquire from that amount, it's very little. But the only hope that I see is that I've seen the head of state saying we are going to improve, we are going to increase the allocation. So there is still hope under that statement from the Bari that they are going to keep on to increase. As soon as, and not only that, probably they should also look at delimitation. we need to advocate that all those constituencies which are vast like Chiranga, they are delimited, because the other constituency which has got only 4 wards. So 4 wards, if you divide it into 40,000, at least it will give you 10, isn't it? 10 go in the first quarter, 10 go. And the other issue that is there, really, which has caused all this problem, is a slowness at which local governments, I'm not saying Chiranga local government, the slowness of work by most of the councils and the CDF committee. Some incompetencies is what is bringing this challenge. Mind you, which quarter are we now? We are supposed to be talking about 40,000 in March, isn't it? By now we should have had, already said of 40,000, maybe we should have had 120,000. How many cooperatives would have gone? A lot. But because of this red tape, because of the work culture in Zambia, probably this is what is causing this. I think it's a high time. This country's got a lot of manpower. I would want to urge local government and the government to think broad. We have a lot of retirees, for example, who are bankers, like me, I'm a retired banker. People who have worked in intensive organizations where performance management is critical. We can start infusing some of this manpower. We have so much manpower in Zambia. A lot of even graduates. But we have all this dead wood, you know, in the government institutions. There's a lot of dead wood that produces, you know, that produces a fiery type of fire, and things are not moving fast. Because by now we should be talking about 120,000. Who is to blame? The government has allocated, the Ministry of Finance has allocated the money.
Can we say the local government is using the laissez-faire kind of approach when it comes to this?
I think we should not whitewash. There's our current councils in our country, they lack capacity to deliver this decentralization. Unless the government was to, sorry, I'm a change manager in a bank where I worked. Unless you employ, unless you create a unit within there, a separate unit of technocrats, you don't need a lot of people really. You can even form a 4-man group, right? Which is supervised, for example, the council secretary or the town, or the town clerk. This specifically manages the CDF. I want to tell you, we're going to have a better results than that current cultural norm, the way it is now. The dead wood that is there in these government institutions.
And Mr. Ben, we've also seen, like you have mentioned, where we have seen a lot of people applying for cooperatives. But are people taking advantage of other alternatives? For example, the loans under the Ministry of Small Medium Enterprises. Have we seen people actually using these alternatives?
No, I mean, before you can even go to these other empowerment models that have come in the country, already in the CDF, we already have loan component. I told you that on cooperatives we had 40 applicants, but in terms of loans, we had about 30 in Chiranga ward. We had 30 applicants. 30, if you look at the whole Chiranga, multiplied by 10, that's already almost 300, 400 applicants. I hope you understand. So before you can even go to these other people who have brought in capital for, like ECC and all those, we already have loan applicants. We already have a lot of people applying under loans. But we have not yet there because the time of reckoning has not yet come. We don't know what will come, or you don't know how much money is there versus the people that applied.
But then, if that's the case, do we see unemployment actually being curbed?
Yeah.
If we have people getting little loans as little as 5,000, do we see CDF serving its purpose, which is to maybe mostly
in a short run, we are not going to create that much. But in a long run, I think every strategy can be changed. The strategy is good, but where you see the strategy is not fitting in accurately, you can actually change. Like I've been hearing the head of state saying, we are going to improve. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. So I'm looking forward to where the allocation should become more. 1, 2, the delimitation of constituencies, ensure that when money is brought in as divided, the money becomes a bit. Then 3, we should look at the speed, work culture speed. If the council do a quick turnaround, then it means we are going to reduce on this pressure. Because right now it means we are doing the pressure of quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, isn't it? 3 quarters, we put it in 1 quarter, creating pressure as if this scenario is so bad, when in the actual sense it's because of the inertia and the bureaucracy that is causing this tension.
But should we give should we give every cooperative that comes, or given that we've seen in constituencies like Chilanga, which are big, should we actually maybe say, well, we're going to give to 10 cooperatives, why approve 40 cooperatives given the situation at hand?
Yes, I mean, when people apply for employment, when people apply, you get all the application, you assess them, and those which have been filled correctly, the challenge which was there was no analysis. I hope you understand. The CDF committees or the council, you should be able to analyze that when you're telling people apply, you analyze, you do financial analysis, that the money where you should be thinking the end from the beginning. The money that you are going to give is this much. So when you are allowing people to what you understand to apply, you should be able to say, okay, as people apply what you can sue, you can vent. Vent 10 in. Vent 30 out. So that when you enter when they go for selection, you know that the ones which have crossed over are only very few, isn't it? They are only very few. That way, it's poor planning, I'm sorry to say. Because when there's accurate planning, you know your end from the beginning. You know the amount you have is this. You know, you are going to put in a strategy that allows you not to enter into a crisis. But if there is no strategy, you just come and say, everyone come for baptism. Everyone comes for baptism. You don't tell them that to be baptized, you need to take off your shoes. Probably you need to wear a vest. So people come in the jobbers, and you know, to lift them for baptism, people are going to die in the swimming pool. So, yeah.
And we have actually a comment from one of our Facebook viewers who is saying CDF may not work. There's too much disorder. So I'm sure that actually referring to the issue of the cooperatives, like for example, in the constituency getting as low as 5,000 kwacha. So maybe also a response to the viewer here who says it may not work due to the disorder. How can we best solve this disorder to make sure that it serves its purpose?
Wherever in an environment like our country where the literacy levels are high, where we are coming from, people are not well informed, people are not well exposed. Confusion is just part of the ingredient. But CDF is not going to fail. I say so because these are just teething problems. As soon as we cure these fundamentals which I've already talked about, we cure the bureaucracies in the council, so that we employ every quarter at least 10, and we do delimitation, we reduce the sizes, and we do capacity building in the councils to ensure that the councils are competent enough to handle sensitive issues like this. I mean, Barry has no option. Something has to be done. Something has to be done in these councils to build capacity.
But do you feel the limitation is realistic?
Exactly.
Of course, that's been recognized that, for example, there's been this debate from the onset where they say rural areas and urban areas should not get the same amount of empowerment because rural areas need it more. So there's been this talk from the onset, even before CDF was released, and we saw the Minister of Finance saying that they won't give an even amount of money to everyone. But this advocacy for delimitation, do you feel it's going to work? Is it something that can be considered?
Yes, I think on principle, when you do delimitation, you are reducing the size of a constituency. You say cut Chilanga into 2. So if you cut it into 2, so 6 wards divided into 400 watt, probably people will be getting 80,000 or so as opposed to 40,000. The issue of giving rural areas more money than in town is highly subjective because all the terrain, the fundamentals are varied. They are not even, they are not the same, they are not universal. They are varied. So, in fact, you'll be surprised if I tell you that you need less capital in the village to start up a business than in town. In the village, you can start a cooperative selling fish. For example, in Inamala or Itej, you can sell fish, you can buy fish for 3,000, for 6,000. And you start selling. Most successful, and this has to be noted in this country, any successful person, they don't start with a lot of money. If you want to be successful, you don't need a lot of money to be very successful. I would have digressed to tell you that I know Pastor Chiluba from where he started his ministry from. Pastor Chiluba never started in what you see as Camnet. I used to see him walk from Chawama on foot, sweating. His shoes are finished. But today, Pastor Chiluba is the brand of this nation. So you don't need to have a lot of money to become successful. All you need is to be focused. To be focused is to look on the ball. There are a lot of things as people are watching Manchester United. People look at where the ball is going. They don't look at who is wearing which shirt. They look at the ball. The ball points to the number of the one who is playing the ball. So that's what you need.
But now we find ourselves in a situation where, you know, when these people form cooperatives, who, let's say, for example, 10 people are given 10,000 or 12,000, they would say the money is not enough for us to, you know, to sustain our cooperative. And then here you are saying, you know, you don't need so much money, you know, for you to build up a business, to grow your business. Are we having the enough knowledge and building capacity to help these people understand that you don't need so much money, you know, to elevate your business?
Yeah, I think on principle, to be honest with you, though we are supposed to do it, but sometimes you need a specialist to do mentorship and to do business development. I can't lie to you to say that we have, say, Chiwamba Kanyama coming to Chiranga, and you group these women and they are talked to by the right people to get the right results. Yes, I've seen ZDA and the Zambia National Building Society come in Chiranga to do a bit of that. It was very beautiful. I wish they could do it in the whole country. There's a program that they are doing, but I've not seen, and that was on one area. If those people can be empowered to go through the whole country, the package that they have, you can actually, because I want also to, on the other side of the flip, did you know that some of these cooperatives that are forming up, some of them are fake? You know, I took time, I'm sorry, because we had an emergency meeting. As a chairman, I didn't want to rely on my zone leaders to do all the work. So I took time to get all the forms, because they are all returned to my house. So I started calling all these cooperatives one by one. I discovered that some of them, they were actually using other people's details to be formed. So if I think I would urge all the world development committees in the country and the local government, these cooperatives need to be scrutinized thoroughly. Like remember in the past we had this, what is FISIP, you know, where a family would come, the family brings all the uncles and the nieces, then they form, and they are getting the whole truck and trailer of fertilizer. Yes, and it's a drain for the country's resources. So equally, even these cooperatives we are having the whole country, we need to scrutinize them before we can give them money. Otherwise, we end up giving people to, and the other people when they applying, I'm sorry to say, when they apply, some people actually rejected the 40,000. When we started the process, they said, if you get this 40,000, we are creating this cooperative. If we share 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, it's not worth even throw away the application form. But is that the concept for empowerment? Who said that when you get into a cooperative, you are going to get that, then you are going to share it 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. That's not the concept. But also, you don't blame those people. Probably there have been this, what I'm talking about, business development. You need to gather all these women together, right? And then you need to bring experts who would come and speak to them from, like, for example, Zambia Institute of Marketing. You can bring people there. People, they talk to them. They so that they understand, like the project that Development Bank, ZDA is doing with the National Building Society. There's a very good program there with an NGO where they came to Chiranga, and what they did was marvelous. They just changed the whole mindset. Yes.
You mentioned earlier that, you know, some cooperatives, these other cooperatives are fake, so there's need for total scrutinization. Are we seeing this in other constituencies, people taking, you know, interest, you know, to scrutinize so that we ensure that the monies are channeled to the right people?
I think that's what we need to talk about. We don't need to hide. We need to be truthful, always. And the truth, whether you paint it black and white, truth remains truth. The zonal leaders, yeah, yes, the zonal leaders, the zonal leader is a leader in a particular zone, a locality. So they need to scrutinize. But mind you, because other people are motivated by money, but not me, they are motivated, they can only do a better job with money. I hope you understand.
Yes.
So you are likely to have a short deal. And sometimes you may find even in World Development Committees, some of them, they collude with these cooperatives. They form them in order to siphon, to steal from the government, you steal from yourself. So yeah, those things are there. I think if you have to scroll now at the end of the day, after 2 years, we'll be able to see some of these things I'm talking about, that they'll come out. But I always tell them, I need in my minutes, if you read the minutes that comes from my word, I'll tell them that I warn my zonal leaders never to indulge themselves in such corrupt practices. And I tell them the consequences that you go to jail. I actually even tell even the cooperative applicants, I always tell them you have to do the right thing. If not, you go to jail. Like some of these, when I was phoning in, I found that they are fake. I told them, my friend, if I discover that you are faking up like these people don't exist, better do the right thing, or I'll report you to the police.
Are they using NRCs of dead people, maybe?
Huh?
Like, in what way are they trying to maybe scam the government? Like, what kind of situation? Are they like using maybe dead people's NRCs, or are they like...
No. The case study in which I found, the issue that I found out 3 days ago as I was what, is that somebody else forms a cooperative, he registers, and then he puts an applicant, mind you there, I've got a form in my bag there. So when you have this form, it will have these committee members, their names, the NRC, and their signatures. Then there are applicants, the two names of applicant. It can be the chairman.
Let me just hold your thought. We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? You're through to the Kamni TV Breakfast Show. Hello? Good morning. We can get you. You're through to the Kamni TV Breakfast Show. Who are we talking to this morning?
Hello.
We can get you. Please go ahead with your contribution. Okay, we'll have to cut that caller. Please do call us back, and when you're calling us, please ensure that you reduce the volume on your TV set so that we can be able to get you audible enough. Please, you can...
Yes, and the other thing that we also need to note is, we're dealing with human beings. We're not dealing with angels. So in people in their localities, they can aid. I'll give an example of one of the cases that I found out. This person opens a company at Pakra. And then he gets a grant application that applies for a cooperative under a Pakra business. Then he justifies, puts names like their cooperative members. And then he submits. Then he does, there are no minutes. There are no minutes because one of the criteria is that they are supposed to be attached for minutes. And anyone signs there are no minutes. And this person was not attached because in a cooperative we attach a constitution. So they do not attach the constitution. So when I asked him that this is a business, it's not a cooperative. So then he says, yes, actually business, I'm supposed to attach an article of association. I understand what I'm saying. So there's no article of association. And let's say hypothetically this thing passes, goes to CDF, and maybe there also the composition may be doubtful somewhere else, maybe the people are not competent. You can find that it can go through. I hope you understand that. You can aid. So when I called one of these cooperatives to say, are you in a cooperative? But this is a business. I said, okay, these names which are here, are they registered at Pakra as cooperative members? He says, no, it's me. Guys, you are a sole trader. They are not registered. Okay, are these people, when you are registering at Zadara, are these people directors, are they all committee members of the cooperative with Zadara? He said, no, they are not. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about due diligence. Right? Then you say, okay, these members, in all circles, you actually find that this issue is fake. So if you don't have people with knowledge, you don't have good leadership, you actually, a lot of these things can go through. That's a fact. It's a fact. There's a lot of due diligence. And we need to create that capacity as well. That's why I said you need a secretariat that is managed by skilled people. Because when they are venting, they will actually check. They vent, they check that these people are giving, they are correct, they exist. Not people who just came together in order to siphon money from the government. In fact, if I was a government, let me tell you what I would do over the CDF. If I was government, you know what I would do? I would not give money to everyone. I would select Zambians who are successful. In this country, there are a lot of young people, youth, women, who are doing marvelous things. They have gone fine doing things. If you inject money to those people, where would they be? Let me just give an example. I don't know about Cabinet, I've just come here today. If Cabinet has started say new TV station in Zambia, imagine CDF was injecting money here. Injecting money to somebody who has already started up, but it just needs to be fired up. Tell me where those people would go. They'll be great employers. Or even now, you people also even jealous. You have also an opportunity. I'm not trying to spoil all those TV stations, because you can also go to CDF, get a loan, and start up your own TV station. Those opportunities are there, but people don't think they don't know. Yes, you can also start up a new big TV.
Yes, but because a lot of people keep on emphasizing the point that not enough sensitization has been given for them to...
We have a caller, Miriam. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Okay.
Please go ahead with the contribution. Good morning, thank you. Please go ahead with your contribution. Please go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, how are you? Excellent.
What's your contribution or question, sir? Okay.
Network.
I think it should be network.
Spending so much time on the greetings, such that by the time it's coming to the contribution with the network card. But do go back and just give your input to the topic at hand. And so, Mr. Mene, maybe moving forward, has any mechanism been put forward? Really, have we seen any mechanism to make sure that these cooperatives actually do what they have said they're going to do? For example, someone can apply saying, I want to start maybe an agriculture business, but then we have any means of monitoring to make sure that after they get this money, they're not just going to blow it up in a bar somewhere. Have we seen any mechanism being put in place?
Well, to be honest with you, on the grant application is free money. Some of which we call it seed money. There's nothing wrong. I mean, HHE, I think, loves these people because it's seed money. Seed money meaning I do not have collateral. I can't borrow from anyone. But the government has, through the World Development Committee, they have identified this person has got potential. He's got a good business plan. So if you inject seed money, this person can get jacked up. Yes. So I think such people can be helped. Such people can be helped who need seed money.
So basically you're saying it would have been a better alternative to give to people who at least have something going.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I know it will not be a fair statement. It will not be patriotic. I will not be a patriotic example to say so. But I want to tell you, okay, if you created a bigger share, or let me give an example about loans. The loans are going to be managed through commercial banks, for your information, under CDF. That mechanism, that strategy is excellent by local government. Because if the money was managed by Mr. Wen as a chairman, this big chairman with a big envelope, there was going to be disaster. If the management of the money was managed by the city council, or town council, or whichever council, Nakonde, it was going to be a serious disaster. If there is anything the government has done correctly, is to take these things to be managed by the banks. Because a lot of people who have been used to getting free money for years, this country has lost a lot of money through giving handouts. You know, handouts do not help any. In fact, free things, there is nothing free on earth. If you are getting anything free, you should question the motive of why it's free. Anything that is free does not help people. I'm sorry to say. You have to learn to work to get things. You have to learn to work. So if you have got a present who is going to give you something for free, you need to run very fast because you are not going to have that present for life.
So do you feel that somehow they should pay back this money to government? Should such a mechanism be put in place, maybe to motivate them to work hard? Because like previously, like I was saying, maybe some people may actually have a call. I hope this one will help. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, I'm through to the breakfast show. Yes, good morning. Can you tell us?
Hello? Yeah, morning.
Yes, we can let you. Kindly tell us your name, where you're calling us.
Yeah, I'm playing.
Kindly go ahead with your contribution.
I'm giving more.
Please go ahead with your contribution, ma'am.
the meeting. Hello?
We can hear you. Can you go ahead?
Because the meeting makes that story. People are complaining about. Hello? People are complaining. People are saying, there are submitted to me that they say something else. I think the best people of the color
we can't hear you. Unfortunately, you have to call us back.
I can't get that.
We can't clearly get you, so please you have to call us back. Breaking.
I don't know what's wrong to them, Miriam, but...
Yeah, exactly, Zipporah. But anyway, in case you're watching us live on Facebook, please do know that we're streaming live on Facebook. You can drop that question or contribution and we'll be able to read it through.
We actually have another, just from Susan Chuenda from watching us from Kitwe, who says, watching you from Kitwe, very enlightening. So,
yeah,
they're following our program.
Wow, thank you so much. I think it's a wonderful program. We need to have similar programs like this. Actually, you need to bring, if you bring 2, 3 chairmen from different, say from Olufunsa, I know it's across the country. Yes, across the country, and you group them together. I want to tell you that all these rural development are experiencing varied challenges. Some of them have kicked, they are doing fine. Some of them are struggling. Some of them are still lost. Some of them are still lost.
We want to break again. Okay, today something else. Where? How has gone again one?
No.
It has come?
It has come, I think.
Well, that time we went to Jesse. Oh, welcome back to the show. We apologize for the short power interruption that we actually had. And so we continue, Mr. Bene, where we were talking about the need for cooperatives to be audited. And now, as we go towards the end of the program, we are again touching on the challenges that WDCs face. But then more interesting, I have seen some instances where some WDCs, ward development committees, do not have like formal places to meet. Is that the situation in Chilanga? Do we see these people with offices, or where do they meet when they want to discuss
exactly
an important topic of 25.7 million kwacha? Do they have offices? What's the situation?
We have seen people meeting under a tree to discuss about this 25.7 million.
You are very right. I know we are just starting up. I know this thing has just started up. Yes, it's real that we are not a fixed board in terms of management of CDF. We are only fixed board by our homes where we belong to. So we manage some of these things in our homes. You have to open up your home to the community. You are to contribute to your community. So in the future, we are looking forward to a situation where on that 5% administrative cost, maybe in the councils there can be a room created where with those computers and everything, so that people can go there, you can be met there. Right now, people come into our homes. You have to host people, and you have to help them. I mean, we have to help our nation to become a better country.
And probably when they come to a home, you have to be hospitable enough to give them something.
You have to be welcoming, and community people are not like people in working places. Community people are really, you have to take them as they are. Some they are very critical. You have to welcome them. You always have to provide, if you like me, a Tonga man, you provide even just a greeting. And even forms, I told you when they are rejected, where did they go? They are in my home. How do you understand? They are in my house.
So keeping those
forms in my house. In my house. And even talk time, like now when I was calling for these people to come through the crisis we had, I spent almost 2 days calling them. You have to use my own money. They drive wherever I go, I have to use my own money. One of the zonal meeting, I have to use my residence, I have to come in my residence. Sometimes you can even attract thieves. But it's a risk that we take in order to help our country. So in the future, I pray that with that 5%, there should be a location where this word development can actually go.
But maybe
we burn our petrol, even to write minutes, to write summaries. We have to I use my own money. I remember one time I was dealing with when we started with the secondary school boarding empowerment and the skills development. I remember one time spending about 1,000 plus, whatever we are doing. Because we had to print, for me, I'm a banker. I don't just do things haphazard. So when I'm submitting my documents, I should have similar documents to ensure that if there's any crisis in future, 10 years from now, I should be able to produce, or if I'm handing over to another people who take over from me, I should be able to hand over a file to say, this is how we are running this system. Yes. So you spend it because you love your nation. And
that's you need to be motivated. That is the end of the to make sure you have
maybe other people, I don't think the whole country people are privileged like me. So other people who are not privileged. I'm giving you an example. For example, I come from Namara or Itej. Let's say I was a chairman for World Development in Itej. Then there is when you are going to Dundumezi, near Dundumezi there is part of Itej. And you know that it's about 50 kilometers, and you pay about 100 kwacha, 100 kwacha to go to Itej. Now I'm not imagining if a zonal leader in Nahira mission is going to pay 200 kwacha to go to Itej to attend the zonal development.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, continue from
Yes, good morning.
Yes, you are to the Kame TV breakfast show. Who are we talking to this morning?
Yeah. Yes, this is you can say that.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes. Good morning, Mr.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good. Yes, I want to find out I'm going to Chilani.
Yes.
Yes, I want to find out for 6 years. Yes, I have seen the document, I'm not in Chilani.
You're saying you've never seen development brought about by CDF in your constituency?
Yes.
Excellent.
Maybe you can respond before you didn't cast. Just hold on, maybe you can respond to him.
Yes, sir, you are very 100% correct. You are correct. The development has not come because there is no goodwill from the government. The development has not come because at the pace at which we as a team from CDF committee, the council and World Development, I'm taking responsibility. The pace at which work is being done is what has not caused. Otherwise, the body already gave all the constituency 6 million. All the constituencies in this country have got 6 million minimum. Others, those who have gone ahead, they have got even double that amount. Those who are in the third quarter, maybe they have 18 million. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So, right now, to be honest with you, one of the priorities in Chilanga is water and roads. So there is no development because we are still working in the first quarter when we are supposed to be in the third quarter. The money is there in the accounts, book accounts of Chilanga City Council. That's a correct thing. How can I say that? As long as that money does not buy a grader fast, you will not see development. So we are looking forward to see that the grader is bought fast. How can I say? So that we can start seeing a grader scratching somewhere. Water bowls are pouring water somewhere. So that's why you have not seen development. The only development that has happened is that on the secondary boarding schools, we have sent children to school under CDF. We have also empowered, we have children who have gone to colleges. You have gone to colleges, they have been empowered. That phase has gone. Right now, we are only dealing with the grants before we go to the loans.
But that is causing the slowness?
The slowness. That's what I'm talking about, the capacity in the councils.
I'm sure the caller's question has been answered. Thank you so much for calling the company. Okay, but moving on, there have been allegations that many a times that priorities is given to those who are aligned to the current administration when it comes to, getting grants from the CDF, given the funds for cooperative and stuff like that.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
We are talking about that people are saying that the people are benefiting are those who are aligned. First of all, the qualification of World Development Committee, to be a World Development Committee officer or to be part of it, you are not supposed to hold any political position in a political party.
membership.
If you know anyone in this country, anywhere, whether in Chipata, where there is a ward development chairman or vice chairman or zone leader who is a chairperson also of a political party, that person, you should write, you can go take him to court, or you can write to the council secretary, that person to be removed. This issue is a community-based project. It's got nothing to do with the politics. And we don't have a politician. For any information, I had a call recently from somebody who was complaining because he was senior management in a ruling party. And this person suffered a lot, he was jailed several times. But the child was not picked to go to. It's a true story that I'm telling you, because I'm not disclosing names. He was surprised why this child has not been included. And there are a lot of people from so-called UPND who are the ruling government complaining about their members not being, and that even most, even these cooperatives we have in Changa, most of them were formed during, the successful ones, they are formed during the previous government. But us, we are not, there is no selection. We are giving people because they are Zambians. We are not giving money because these people belong to a Chan. So such a thing in Chilanga, I'm saying it's zero. We don't even know who belongs to which party. The issue of Kadarism and all this doesn't happen. We give people on merit. And that's what is happening. That one I can assure you, the merit is there in Chilanga, maybe elsewhere. Yes.
Even as we come to the conclusion, so what would you like to see going forward concerning the whole situation in CDF?
One, I would want the government to move in quickly to do delimitation, to ensure that we cut those constituencies which are brought, ensure that to increase the amount of money going into there. Two, I would want to see the government probably by next year to build capacity in councils, create a unit within there of specialists. There are a lot of, they don't need a lot of money. Yes. So you create capacity within councils so that you employ competent people. There are a lot of competent people. You know that we have lawyers, engineers, in this, what. But the people who are heading most of this word development are people who took people, maybe they make them to drink beer, then because they're majority, they win the elections, but the competent people are left out. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Yes. So we need to see a lot of that. We also need to see a situation where we have capacity building for people to be mentored, for people to do business development to take place, in order to change mindset. I think those are some of the things that I need to see. I think also the president always talks about servanthood. I think this issue of servanthood, the president is always calling his prime secretary in a live telecast, and he tells them how he wants the country to run fast. We need to see at the Mr. level, PS level, going also to hold similar meetings like the one Valley does, to ensure that there is. We also want to see a similar where the district commissioner, the MP, the council secretary, we want to see them also hold similar meetings of accountability, and they should declare themselves their servants and not masters. We still have this mentality in our country that leaders, they want to be worshipped. If Baal is not being worshipped, why should a single person in a council where there is a director be worshipped? And we will never worship anyone. I want to urge the Zambians. The new Don government has given you CDF empowerment. It may not be that big, but even in smallness, you can improve your life. Sorry, me, I was a bank at Stanbic, a clerk for many years, but the achievement I achieved as a boy, as an employee, could be greater than a director in a bank. Why? It's the mindset and how you are going to work hard to change your lifestyle. So please, do not worship those leaders, the council secretaries, your MPs. Don't worship those honorable MPs. Stand your ground. Fight for what belongs to you. Fight, not fighting with my blow or my coffee. Fight with your bravery. You know, when you are brave, HH was very brave, and he became president. So when you are brave and you fight, you are going to get what belongs to you.
All right, thank you very much. That has been Mr. Lapi Bene, who is the Chilanga Ward Development Committee chairperson. A very interesting topic there, and I'm sure our stakeholders have heard, especially in regard to the challenges that are actually there when funding these cooperatives. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Chilanga to just join us here on 6. And
having this fruitful and wonderful discussion with you.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward when Cabinet TV, I would come to Kantumba Park, our residents in Chilanga. You can Google Kantumba Park, and we are going to have a good time. We drink Chibwantu.
We look forward to that. But anyway, this is where we come to the end of our program. Do join Patrick Soko and Sharon Kalimbula tomorrow morning as they bring you on what is trending in the current affairs. For me, Miriam Kaimba, and my colleague Zipporah Mshala and the rest of the production team, it's bye-bye and God bless.